What's up, guys? Welcome back to Freedom Empowered. If you've been enjoying our shows, go ahead and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and all the other platforms that we're on. And I think we got an extra good one for you today. Isn't that right, Nick?
Yeah, guys, on today's episode, we're going to talk about robots and AI technology and how it may affect your life in one way or another. So, in general, there's been a fear of robots and AI technology, whether it's the idea of robots taking over the workforce, people losing jobs, probably some most low skill jobs and probably some high skill jobs could be taken by robots, or some people just have a fear of robots taking over the world, just like in that movie I, Robot. Have you ever seen that movie, Mason?
I did, and I think it's has some pretty good implications. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, so for example, there is an article over at livescience.com. I recommend you guys should go check it out. It's basically about Flippy the robot. It's a burger flipping robot. It worked for Cali Burger over in Pasadena, California. Cali Burger is just a chain restaurant who decided to try having robots in their restaurant. So the robot was specifically responsible for grilling and flipping burgers. So in the article, it stated that the robot was temporarily retired because it was going too fast for its human coworkers. So Flippy was too good at his job. He was too efficient, too fast. So I just want you guys to imagine an entire kitchen full of Flippies or lettuce placers, tomato placers, and just imagine the efficiency and probably cheaper for the business to use than having humans. This basically has the potential to wipe out tons of fast food jobs.
Yeah, guys, and just keep in mind that we're using the fast food industry to talk about this because it's a huge industry that has a big impact, but this can be applied across all the other industries too, and how technology is changing it. But specifically in fast food, there's about 5 million jobs in the industry, and we could see half or more of those jobs be eliminated in the next 5 to 10 years. That's a lot of jobs. So basically, the question that we're going to try to answer today is, if you're in a low skill job that could very easily be replaced by a robot, what should you do?
So ultimately, this innovation is most likely a good thing. Yeah, jobs will be lost, but other jobs could be made as well. We've seen it in the past with other industries where they've innovated. So I don't think we should try to stop the innovation because of just the fear of people losing their jobs. If we look back at when automobiles were first being invented, the horse carriage business, there was horse carriage makers, horse breeders, and the owners of the business. And people were scared and mad about losing their jobs. So imagine if we didn't innovate to something faster, probably more reliable, and more efficient than horse carriages. We would be going to work on our horse or in our horse carriage, or fire trucks would be pulled by horses. I know it's like silly to think about, but it's true. If we were held back by the fear of people losing jobs, we wouldn't have innovated. I think as a society, we must learn how to overcome these obstacles that are presented to us today.
I mean, guys, that's all swell, but let's try to bring this back to present day. If you look at it, there's some modern day examples would be the internet. For instance, the newspapers, they almost went out of business when the internet was created, and they had to learn to adapt. And as you see now, they'll like start to have their news articles and stuff online. They each have a website. I mean, I think most of us, if we're trying to look up news, we don't go buy a newspaper. We just go online. Same thing with, I think it's actually pretty funny. One of the biggest ones is that whenever you were in school and you had to write a report or do a paper, you always hear the teacher talk about or your parents talk about, hey, back in my day, we had to go into the library and try to find the book to pull a quote from. So first you got to go look for a book, and then you have to hope that it has the right information in it. But now, I know personally, I don't think I ever went to the library once when I was in school, and I'm sure that probably most of
I remember going to a library. It was to use the computer to go onto the internet to do my research. Still,
right. I mean, you're right, man. That's the point here. Is that try to I'm just trying to put this on your guys' level. Everyone here thinks that the internet's a good thing. So I think that it kind of begs the question of, is technology really, I think it's pretty much most of the time a good thing. I don't
so
know.
so the world is constantly changing. Since the 70s, our population has nearly doubled, or if not more than doubled. And nowadays, as college is getting more and more accessible to everyone and everyone's getting degrees, it's becoming less and less valuable. When college first became huge, if you had a college degree, that made you stand out, and now it's becoming less of a thing. And to have job security nowadays, you need a unique skill, or a skill that you're the best at. And in today's dynamic world, that means constantly updating your skills or bettering yourself.
Yeah, guys. When you look at it, the point of the article that we read was that the argument was that technology is what's taking away these jobs. It's the increase or of technology is taking jobs away from low skilled people. But I don't even think that's what it is. I think that the point here is that the world is dynamic, and it's not just technology. It's many other factors that are just going to make jobs harder to get. As he talked about the population just now. That's one huge thing. Even if all we had were manual jobs, just the sheer number of people is going to make jobs less accessible. And then for those of you who think you're safe because you have a pension or you work for the government or something, you have like a nice government pension. I was reading an article the other day about the Dallas Police Department, and a lot of their veteran officers are leaving in droves because their pension system is imploding. And so basically, even if you do your 20 years or whatever their requirement is, there just simply is not going to be money to pay them. So a lot of their officers are taking what money they have and leaving because they're not going to invest another 5, 10 years in to just end up with no pension on the other side. So if you think that this is just the technological thing, it's not. Just in the world we live in, we're living in a more dynamic society where jobs are coming and going either way.
And
And
go ahead.
yeah, I'll just say one more thing here. When I think if you think back on it in history, we've always talked about you have blue collar jobs versus white collar job. Blue collar jobs meaning that it's mostly manual labor, and white collar jobs being, you wear a suit to work. But what I think it's more indicative of is that white collar jobs mean that you're using your brain to some extent. It's not just manual labor. So I think one interesting thing is that as we move into the future, pretty much every job can be classified as a quote unquote white collar job, because even if you're doing a type of manual labor, you're still using your brain to some extent. Whether even if you work in a factory, you're still learning how to use the machinery or learn some sort of process, you know. So I think that that's just one thing we're going to have to get used to, is the fact that we no longer can you just get a job where all you're doing is lifting things, all you're doing is working with your hands. Now, to some extent, you're going to have to be knowledgeable.
Well, like, another thing is, I think people are looking at this whole innovation and people losing jobs. They're looking at it the wrong way. Like, we want people to have jobs, just new jobs. Like, we can all agree when we envision a utopia, we imagine a technologically advanced society where there's flying cars, robots are butlers, and we don't go to school because it's just implanted in our brain or
Right.
whatever it is. And that's the way people look at it, but when they are presented with the problem today or the obstacle today of innovation, they resist it. They don't go for it
Right.
because the fear of other people losing their jobs.
Yeah. I mean, and then we'd talk about protecting these jobs, and then I would make the argument, do we even why? Why do we want people to have these jobs? I remember back when I was in high school, I took a class where I had to work in a voting booth for like a week, and it was like a conveyor belt type of system where everyone just did one thing for like all day. And I just remember that was like the worst thing ever. And I just never wanted to do a mindless task where all I was doing was one specific piece to a puzzle and never doing anything more than that. So I would say that these jobs are no fun whatsoever. I know, when was the last person that you were talking to that said, "Oh, when I was working at McDonald's in high school to just get my life started, that I loved that job and I reminisce on it all the time." Like, no one says that because the job is horrible. You know what I mean? So we're talking about these people who work in these jobs for 10, 20 years, and I honestly think that it would be doing them a disservice to just keep them in those jobs. Like, why not have that's the whole point of this utopian society, is that you'll have a robot or some other form of technology doing the mundane and just horrible tasks that no one wants to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And like you don't hear anyone complaining about how Tesla is taking away business from oil companies and people are losing jobs over at oil companies because the push towards electric cars. And like don't get me wrong, I see where people are coming from. But they see it as they don't really care about the job itself. They don't care about
Right.
the hamburger flipping job at McDonald's. What they care more about is the people who are gonna lose their jobs, the people who won't be making their monthly paycheck.
Right. I mean, because we just went over it, everyone can agree that technology's good, and everyone can agree that these mundane jobs are horrible. So what is the question? And I think you hit it right on the head there. The answer is that people aren't opposed to our society advancing. They're just afraid of the people that are left behind. So I think that we need to reframe this and reframe our argument, and what is the real solution to this? I don't think that the solution is keeping these jobs to let someone who doesn't have any skills feed their family or whatever. I think that we should look at it in another way, and how do we teach these people who have those jobs to advance themselves to the next level so that they can get a better job, or learn a new skill. As we said earlier, you need to learn new skills, and you need to be unique, and you need to have something that you're the best at. How do we get them to get to that next level?
Well, yeah. That's what is usually keeping from people. That's usually what's keeping these people at their current burger flipping job or any low skill minimum wage job, is because they don't know anything else to do. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, and I think people say, "Hey, I can't afford to go to college, or I can't afford, like, I need to work in order to, because they already have a family or something like that." And I would say, as we said earlier, college really doesn't mean a whole lot anymore. It doesn't really set you apart from other people. So what do you have to do? Where do you learn these new skills, or where do you develop in a way where you can get a job? And I think what you have to do is you have to build on a skill that you already have, because I think that everyone has something that they're good at, some skill where they can turn that into a job and make money. I know I have a buddy who he works with his hands, but he makes knives or whatever. So he makes these awesome knives that are beautiful, and it's just because he took a blacksmithing course, and he now has his own business where he'll make these amazing knives to order and in the specs that people want, and then he'll ship it to them. So it's almost like not necessarily the manual labor is going out, but just those jobs, where those skillless jobs. You can still find work with your hands, if that's what you're good at. If, like, let's say that you just for some reason are just really good with your hands, you can still find a job like that, but you have to find it. You have to have it using a skill that you have that's different from what other people have. You have to set
You have to
the whole
utilize
point
it
is
in a different way.
right. You have to set yourself apart from other people. And working at a fast food chain where we said earlier that there are like 5 million jobs, that's not setting yourself apart. You're the same as all those other people.
Yeah, and instead of bashing these tech companies and trying to hold back our society, if we just spent 5 minutes, because we're not there yet. We're not at the point where robots are going to take over fast food jobs. But if you're one of those people working at that fast food job, start now. You know it's coming. You see the writing on the wall. You should right now start thinking about ways to make money once robots do take over the industry, and learning how to improve your value, take some classes out of college, or use Skillshare. If you don't know what Skillshare is, it's a website. It's also an app. You pay, I think it's like $5 a month, and you just watch videos on skills that you want to learn. There's ways to improve your value where you will still have a job in the future.
Right. And on the other side of this, if you're one of those people who does have a good job where you're using your brain and you think that you have a very individual skill or something like that, you have to look at it and realize that all of those people that are in the workforce their jobs are getting phased out, that they're coming for your job now. So even if you think that you're unique and that you're set, you need to still find ways to better yourself because people are coming for your job. You should never be comfortable. You should never be like, wow, I've made it and now I can just relax and just ride the line for the next 20 years or until you're ready to retire.
Well,
you need to always.
I think a good example of this is we somehow managed to talk about Amazon in every episode so far, but Walmart was the leader in their industry, and then Walmart had the ability to do what Amazon did, but Walmart got comfortable. They're still a big company, but Walmart got comfortable, and Amazon innovated before they did, and they came up with a way to give people goods.
Right. Walmart's been around. Yeah, Walmart's been around for a very long time. They could have turned their market into an online market at any time, but they chose not to. So even people that are at the top of their game that might seem like you have a monopoly, you still have to constantly be finding ways to advance.
So basically, to summarize this whole thing, is don't go looking at technology and innovation as a bad thing. You know it's coming. Find ways to improve yourself. That's basically the point of this episode, is improving your self-value, making yourself more valuable than a robot, or finding a way where a robot won't take your job because you've learned a skill that way.
Right, and if, on kind of a humor note, but let's say one day robots do take over the world, what are you going to offer them? You know what I mean? You got to find a skill.
We'll be working for the robots.
Right. And they don't care about people. They don't care because robots are emotionless, so they don't care if we have enough money to feed our family. All they care about is what do you give them? What can you offer them? And
they'll have no problem killing us if we can't work for them.
True. So find a skill. Find something. Better yourself in some way. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all we have to say for today. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I think we wrapped it up. We wrapped up everything we wanted to say. So if you enjoyed today's episode, guys, please remember to subscribe on iTunes. Remember to tell a friend about the podcast. If you don't have Apple because you're weird, You can listen to us on SoundCloud. We'll be on Spotify in about a week. Where you can also find us at our website, freedomempowered.us. Thank you guys for listening.